Okay, so I'm going to be showcasing how to do a split squat using the Badger protocol, which is simply a method of combining isometrics with an isotonic or a rep through range of motion to, in this case, really introduce some stretching or strengthening of a muscle in a lengthened position, so quasi stretching, as a way of addressing, most often I find this most useful in addressing complaints of tightness that are recurring, that are chronic, but aren't present with true limitations in range of motion. So this is for the person who has been dealing with persistent tightness, and maybe it's just a result of how hard you train, which isn't a bad thing, and you can't necessarily out exercise that. But if it's the case that maybe you aren't exposing your body to these types of end range positions, in this case we're going to be focusing on the hips, if you're not exposing your hips to these end range positions enough, then that can partially be the cause, and this can be a way to start to introduce it. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to do an isometric hold first, then we're going to do some reps, and then we're going to do a second isometric hold. So it's like a sandwich. You can invert it if you'd like to and do reps, hold, reps, but this is what I prefer to do because it allows us to bias time spent contracting in the position of interest, which in the hip that I'm going to be focusing on with this demonstration, it's my right hip. So we're working on exposing the front of the hip and the rectus femoris, so one of the hip flexor quad muscles, to stretch while it's also working. So what you're going to do, you want to elevate yourself when you get off the ground to the lowest possible position that you can while maintaining good positioning of your body for the entire duration of the set hold time. So it's going to be a 10-second hold, 5 reps, 10-second hold. So for me, I'm going to lift myself just off the ground. I can hover, and I'm pushing actively into the ground with this trailing leg. Breathing, it sucks, get a little bit of shake. At the end of 10 seconds, we're probably there. Use a timer to be precise. You're going to do smooth transition right into continuous 5 reps, meaning you're not pausing at the top or the bottom. You're going right from the top back to the bottom. And at the end of the 5th rep, you're going to transition right back into a hold for a final 10 seconds. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if that position is too hard for you, then what you're going to do is you just elevate yourself a little higher off the ground to the lowest position you can, because the lower you are, the more you're engaging the back of the hip to a stretch. The higher you are, the hip tends to kind of roll forward and disengage from the stretch, and also the knee angle changes, so it lets off some tension on the front of the hip. So that is a use of the Badger protocol with a split squat, and you can apply this honestly to any joint you want, any exercise you want, and you can flip it and do, like I said, a reps, hold, and then reps. But in terms of doing what I just demonstrated, what I suggest if we're trying to bias a stretch and build strength in these specific positions, as you get comfortable with this, start with 2 to 3 sets of this with just body weight. As you get more comfortable, increase the hold time, keep the reps the same. And then what can happen is if you notice positive improvements, you can start to tinker with variables a bit more. So increase the hold time, go up to, you can just do the front end hold time or the back end hold time, because if you increase both the front end and back end of the rep hold time, then you're going to be doubling the hold time essentially. You can slow down the reps in the middle, but I would introduce an increase in hold time first, and then over time increase reps, and if you even want, you can add some load. All right, so give that a try.